evening for me, but I'm wishing you a good morning and a good afternoon wherever you are in the world. As you can see, the title of my talk is Genero, the 21st Century 4GL, Time to Take the Leap. And there's a reason for that time to take the leap, because there are many of you still sitting out there on the fence running 4GL legacy applications in the 21st century, and you haven't yet made the leap to modernize those applications. And so it really is time to take a leap and make a move, because the world is leaving those applications behind. You need to do something about it. So in the last 25 years, we've been modernizing legacy 4GL apps, and we really have a unique experience in this field like no other. We have modernized 4GL apps in some of the largest corporations in the world. And so this talk is really for those guys that are still hesitating. So this is where you are today. Oh, hang on, we've got an approve request coming up on my screen. Let me just get rid of that. What is going on? What's going on? I'm getting an annotating. How do I get out of this? Okay. I don't know what you're doing, Joe, but you requested an annotation. Anyway, let me continue with my presentation. So this is where you are today. You know you need to do something about this application, but what do? You know, your users are complaining about the user interface. They see their colleagues using more modern user interfaces. The management is complaining about the lack of integration with the rest of the IT landscape. Your sales department, your customers, they're complaining about the fact that there's no mobile access. You're running on old servers with old operating systems, and you've some cases got no more support for those software stacks. So you really need to bring the app into the 21st century. And this is where you need to be. Apps that run everywhere, multiple form factors, responsive UIs that adapt to the real estate of the device automatically. They need to be secure. You need them containerized for the cloud. You need to be a part of the overall IT landscape. So what are the options that you have? Well, as far as 4Js is concerned, there is obviously only one option. But others would disagree with me and see three others. So what are those other three options? The first one is just to rewrite the application. And that sounds so seductive, but it's actually a recipe for a disaster. And I have met and spoken with a lot of people that tried to rewrite 4GL applications, and really many people have come unstuck. We're talking millions of lines of code. We're talking tens of man years, in some cases, hundreds of man years of code. We're talking about millions, tens of millions of dollars of development expense that rarely finish. I learned just a few weeks ago of a company that was rewriting a 4GL application from scratch, and they spent 4 years and $10 million and can't even give a demonstration of that application. So that is high cost, high risk, and high risk of user rejection, because they're used to the ergonomics of the application that they've been using for the last 10, 20, 25 years. So they can reject. And I've seen many situations where applications were developed in 4GL and used for a very, very long time, that were rewritten in Java, rejected by the user community. So rewrite is high risk. I would say it's brave and courageous, but it's a great way to put your job on the line. That's the first one, rewrite. Buy-in. So don't forget, you have a bespoke solution that you have honed over the last 25 years. a package, whether it be Oracle Financials, SAP, JD Edwards, MS Dynamics, still requires expensive fitting to your organization. And if you do that, what you're essentially doing is outsourcing the control of your domain to expensive outside business consultants. Again, that's high risk, high cost, and again, high risk of user rejection. Then the other final option is just do nothing. And I think there are a lot of 4GL customers that are doing nothing. Just get rid of this. Sorry, I got an incoming call. And the risk of your systems being obsolete, the risk of system crashes because the systems are obsolete, the huge opportunity cost because this application is sitting in the past and is not taking advantage of the innovation of the latest computing paradigms. It's just dragging down the competitivity of the corporation. So by isolating core systems from innovation, you are not doing your company a great service. So for us, the common sense choice is Genero. You keep the business logic, you keep your development team and all that investment in that domain knowledge. You keep the users happy, you keep your job. All you need to do is just recompile to get started. And you've already got something that looks a hell of a lot better. And then you can just evolve your app in manageable steps. So that seems such an easy choice. Why is it so hard to make? Why is it so hard to make an easy choice? And I've had a lot of time to think about this. And in my view, there are three reasons. The first one is because everybody says 4GL is dead and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Why continue with an app based on dead technology? 4GL is dead, so therefore Genero is dead. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. And remember, you took 25 years to hone that code, so if you can hang on to it, you should really do it. So let's just deal with that one issue. 4GL is dead. 4GL may be dead, but it lives on in Genero. Genero is state-of-the-art 4GL. We are 100% 4GL compatible, but we are not 4GL, and that's important to understand. So we chose the language. You cannot copyright a language, but everything else was developed by 4Js from the ground up. So we added all of the modern paradigms. We added browsers, we added smartphones, we added tablets, we added Mac OS, we added Windows, we added cloud, we added containers and Kubernetes, as I've already said. And we've assisted our developers to navigate through the fickle world of user interface APIs. So we've gone from green screen through to X11, Java AWT and applets, Flex, ActiveX, Silverlight. Remember Silverlight, that great star from Microsoft that lasted maybe 3 or 4 years, and all of the people that invested in Silverlight, some of those guys are still writing their way out of Silverlight many years after it was de-supported by Microsoft, all the way to HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. And through all of that time, this is really important, our developer community never had to change a single line of business logic because the language is abstract, right? I mean, that's what the 4 in 4GL means. And on top of that, we added service-oriented architecture features like SOAP, RESTful web services, security, single sign-on, XAML, OAuth. We've got a Java native interface, so if you need to pull in data from other applications, you can do it in line with Java. We support JSON constructs, no SQL databases. We've got a modern driven architecture environment for creating new applications, which is low code, conformant. We do graphical reports. You can create mobile apps. And we've got this universal rendering client that allows you to define your screen once and run it with the same look and feel across heterogeneous client environments. Finally, and we've just released that in the last few days, we have responsive UI. And a responsive UI basically allows the user interface to adapt to the real estate of the device. So if you go from a 24-inch screen all the way down to a smartphone, you no longer need to write many different .per descriptions. It will adapt automatically and swipe left to swipe right where the real estate doesn't exist. And Genero apps literally run everywhere. So now you can access not just Informix, you can pull in information from other corporate databases as well. The app runs behind the firewall, so it's secure, and we only send raw data over the network to the client. No graphical information, just data. That's why it scales to thousands of users concurrently. And I mentioned already that we support mobile devices, browsers, and classic desktops. And all of this is down to the crown jewels of our product, which is our dynamic virtual machine, that little Genero logo that you see that sits on the server and allows you to distribute load across multiple servers if you need be. That dynamic virtual machine still sits on a floppy. It's less than 1.44 megabytes of code, for those of you that remember floppy disks. It's really easy to port, which is why we have ported it pretty much everywhere. And the P code system that it uses, which is like bytecode, it's like Java bytecode, means that without recompilation, your app will just run everywhere. So going back to that screen, if you are here today, tomorrow you can be here. I mean, literally, between those two screens, it is the same business logic. The business logic, the 4GL, the code did not change. What you are seeing there are folders and accordion style attributes that we added as an extended syntax of the .per file. So at the same time, we support all of these UIs. What you're seeing here is the same application that can run multiple UIs at the same time. So if you've got different user communities, like the executive board all on Macs or iPads and everybody else on PCs, they can still all access the same applications. So you see Windows, Mac OS, Linux, browsers, and even you can run your application. If you want a quick mobile device solution, you can run it in a Safari browser. Now, the only thing I would say is that in order to run it in a browser, you need a network, but it works. You've got tactile input on that, but let's say the ergonomics is not ideal for such a device. So it's really only a short-term solution. And that's why we came out with Genero Mobile. And here we really are using the user interface of the device. In this case, you see a native rendering, so iOS and Android. In the middle, you see it's exactly the same code. And that may be important for users that really don't want to change the look and feel of the application. They are used to running with an iOS ergonomics, and therefore they want all of the iOS ergonomics to run all the way through their applications. What we tend to find, though, is that businesses really want the same look and feel. And so we also have an HTML5 rendering as well. And the thing that's important between these two slides is that the code is running on the device. So we ported the DVM to the iOS and to Android, and the DVM has basically an interface to the user interface of the native device. So what that means is you can run applications without a network. And then once the network is back, for instance, if you're a delivery guy and you're going into a building and you lose the network, well, you can still enter the delivery information, the signature block, etc. When you get back out of the building, you simply sync to the corporate database. So with Genero Mobile, you've essentially got one code stream, which is, for all intents and purposes, 4GL or BDL, Business Development Language, as we call it, and that supports iOS and Android, tablets and smartphones. You're developing with one studio, which is Genero Studio. So you don't need to learn Xcode, you don't need to learn ADT. You've got a responsive UI that fits the available real estate. So as you can see there, you've got the same application running on tablets on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you've got smartphones, Samsung and Apple iPhone. And the screen on the right-hand side is just the left pane. So you can swipe left and swipe right to see the other pane. And for that, there's no special coding. It's basically 4GL. The DVM handles the rest of it. So we went further than that, though. It's not just about supporting different platforms. It's about modernizing the language, because our philosophy is as much about new application development as it is modernizing legacy applications. We feel that if people are going to modernize their legacy applications, they're going to want to embellish those applications with new apps. And so therefore, we need to render 4GL as a modern language. It's impossible to develop modern applications with the 4GL of today. That's why we came up with Genero and BDL. And let me just give you some examples of the things that we have done. So here you see classic 4GL green screen. You see two inputs. You see a construct at the top, which is inactive. And at the bottom, you see an active input where the cursor is. Now, a user today, very simply, would expect to be able to click on the upper screen, so order number, customer code, order data. But in classic 4GL, it can't do that. It needs to exit the active input to activate the construct statement. And that exit is done by an escape. And simply, users will not tolerate that kind of user interface today. And so here you see it again. By the way, this is what a recompile of that code does. So you already get something that is far more attractive in look. You automatically get the mouse. And if you're on a mobile device, you automatically get tactile input as well. But here you see the same thing. It's the same 4GL code. And what's grayed out is the inactive construct. And what you see there is the active input. So the user wants to click on order number. In this situation, he can't. So this is why we fix that problem with something we call multiple dialogues. And here you see two active screens, active construct and an active input. And here the user can just click between the two screens, so order number, printer, as you would in any normal application. Let's have a look at some other examples. So here you see master detail. At the top, we've got an active construct. Underneath, we've got an active input array, which gives us our master detail. Here we see a list box pattern with multiple selects. Again, both are active. Wouldn't be the case in classic 4GL. Here's a toList pattern, both active display arrays. And by the way, we can drag and drop between those two list patterns. These are things that we've added to the language. How did we do that? We did it in the most simplest form possible by embracing those constructs. And you can embrace many different constructs, whether it's a construct statement, an input array, a display array. If you embrace them between the dialogue and the end dialogue, all of those display constructs, those input constructs, will be active simultaneously. And look, that's just a few lines of code. You don't need to rewrite your application. You just need to adapt. That's what we did. We adapted the language in a similar form as this. Now, normally I can click on that image and go to the website and download the white paper that we wrote, which is 21st Century 4GL from green screens to smartphones. I'm not going to attempt to do it here because I tried it offline and it didn't work. So I'm just, suffice to say, you've got the URL there. Have a look at that document because it will show you what we have done to the language. So things like passing functions by reference, something that 4GL can't do. Named parameters, case sensitivity if you want it. We added a huge array of user interface widgets, things like button edit, checkbox, combo box, date time edit, progress bar, radio group, slider, spin edit, what else? Text edit, grids, tables, tree structures, folders. You saw folders. So I don't know. This is an 8 or 9 page document of all of the things that we added to 4GL to make it a modern development environment. And I encourage you to have a look at that. And you know, this is really a developer's dream because you've got a single development tool, a low-code development platform, as they're being called now, that can run your apps everywhere, on servers, on desktops, on mobile devices, in browsers, in the cloud, cloud native, even on IoT devices. We did some ports to Raspberry Pi, QB board, and Beagle boards. Basically, anything that's running Linux can run Genero. So it's all the same code, and there's really no need to recompile in that P code system, which supports execution of the same code across heterogeneous platforms. We have 3 products: Genero Enterprise, which is the Genero Studio IDE and a runtime environment. It also includes Genero Mobile and Genero Report Writer, which is a graphical streaming report writer designed for business development language, or our version of 4GL. But there are also 2 standalone products, Genero Mobile, which will connect to other server technology than Genero. It'll allow you to connect, for instance, to Node.js or anything else that you may have out there. And Genero Report Writer, which you can use with Java, PHP, or C# applications. So our view is you need to review this as a long-term relay race, and we are taking over from where 4GL left off, arguably where 4GL should have gone but did not, for historical reasons that we won't go into. So we're here to protect your developer skills that you've developed over 10, 20 years in many cases, the domain business logic, which is priceless. You do not want to be rewriting that. That is, as I say, a recipe for a disaster. And then the user expertise of the people that use the application, that know it by heart. And the last thing they want to do is to spend, months learning a new system with different ergonomics. So with us, you keep your 4GL apps and you keep them relevant forever by gradually evolving them using the extensions and improvements that we put into the language. That's a low cost and low risk solution. So in answer to the question, is 4GL dead? No, it is not dead. It lives on in Genero. It's never been more alive. And if 4GL were dead, we would not exist. We would not be around. So now, LaurentGalais, who is on this call to take any questions, if there are any, will be following on with much more detail about what we've done in his talk, which is C13 at 3:10, which is probably in about a little over an hour and a half. Okay, that's the first reason why people hesitate. What's the second reason why people hesitate? think it has to do with the CV, right? The curriculum vitae or your developer's CV. So recent 4GL gigs don't necessarily look very good on CVs, right? Does not help your future career prospects. So let's find 1,000 reasons why we don't want to prolong the life of this 4GL app. We encounter that so often. But that is something that is changing. Remember, this is not 4GL. There is a revival of rapid application development systems, but it's been renamed by the analysts as low-code development platforms. And I alluded to the fact that we are a low-code development platform before. So let me just take you through that. If you don't believe me, Genero is a low-code development platform. This is what Gartner has to say. I'm sure you're all familiar with Gartner. Their definition actually uses the word 4GL, a scripting or fourth generation language programming environment, often extending model or form-driven development environments. If I was writing the data sheet for Genero Studio, I could not do better than that. So we are definitely a low-code development environment. And by the way, Forrester Research is saying the same thing. So there is a growing need for developers that use low-code tools, and there is a growing need for low-code tools in general. And why is that? According to Gartner, in the next 5 years, 75% of application development will be done with low-code development platforms. Why is that? It's very simple. Low-code development platforms, or RADs, make sense. All of these low-code development tools, these RADs, they've been around for 25 years. They look a lot different now. They've matured, they've evolved, they do a lot more, but they're essentially the same products. So they always made sense, because it always made sense to businesses to get the job done quickly, cost effectively, without fuss. The goal of the low-code development platform is to broaden the developer audience in order to reduce the IT backlog by farming stuff development off to the line of business, and also developing biz apps in object-oriented programming systems is overkill. I mean, Gartner are openly saying that people that are developing simple business applications, core mission-critical business applications in OOPs, are crucifying themselves for nothing. They're too complex. You don't get things done quickly enough. And with Genero Studio, you're not developing in VI anymore. I mean, you can do if you want. You can use just the compiler and skip using the development tool. But young developers, and we have a lot of young developers coming on board with our product, they expect something like this. So you've got a modern development environment with model-driven architecture tools, and also graphical database editors, performance profilers, code analysis, etc., etc. So frankly, don't worry about your CV working with Genero, because this is where the future is going. So the third reason that often gets leveled at me is, all of that sounds great. We love it, but I cannot invest my company's future in an unknown entity that may disappear 5 years from now. If I had a penny for every time somebody asked me whether or not I was going to be around in the next 5 years, I'd be a rich man. I've been with 4Js for 20 years. I still consider my future bright, and the future of 4Js is bright. We have a lot of very happy customers. We continue to grow our installed base. But just to put the icing on the cake, I'm here to tell you that 4Js will never disappear. 4Js will live forever and Genero will live forever for the very simple reason that we were acquired on May 28th of this year by Constellation Software Inc. And as you can see, Constellation Software Inc. is a very large Canadian software conglomerate, which has 750 companies, very much the same as ours, specialized in mission critical applications. It has a market cap of $43 billion and $4 billion in revenue. I mean, that's amazing. That's a multiple of 10x, more than 10x. So we're up there with, you know, Facebook, Google, Apple, Twitter in the market capitalization. Constellation Software Inc. buys companies and keeps them. It never sells them. And this is their model. And we're a part of this group. So we ain't going anywhere. We're just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. I think it's also important to note that we have a global footprint because you need local support. And we have some of the most prestigious brands in the world as our customers. They trust us. They trust Genero. This is what we do for a living. This is what we've been doing for the last 25 years. We don't do anything else. Our business is taking legacy applications from companies like the ones that you see and translate them into modern day applications. Actually, there's a fourth reason that often crops up, which is, okay, all of that's well and good. We love what you do, but we've got our heads down. We have too much work on our plate and we don't have the time. And so I just want to finish off by saying, we'll do the work for you. Over the last several years, we've developed a very performant professional services organization. We will do audits, we'll do the modernization of legacy apps, we can do development of new apps, we'll help you with the testing, we'll do consulting, we can do training. We can provide all of those services to you so that you can get on with your business and we'll get on with modernizing your application. And on that point, you can learn more about professional services from Mike Folcher's talk. Mike is the delivery director worldwide for professional services at 4J's Development Tools. He has a huge amount of 4J development and project management experience over his past career. So you see, really now there's no excuse to hesitate. If you are thinking of rewriting a 4GL application, I'm here to tell you, you must be crazy, given what we have. If you are thinking of buying in an application from the outside in the hope that you're going to keep your users happy without huge amounts of development to make it fit your organization, I am telling you, you are crazy. So having said all of that, take the leap. It's in yours and your company's own interest. I'd just like to finish on one slide. We will invite everybody that attends the IIUG event to our Worldwide Developer Conference. It's a virtual conference. We typically go to Cancun in Mexico for a week and enjoy the sun and the beach and learn about the latest features and the future roadmap. For the last 2 years, we haven't been able to do that. And so for the last 2 years, we've done virtual conferences, which have been very successful. We've had, obviously, a lot more people show up to the virtual conference than go to Cancun because it's a lot easier for people to do. It's less time out of their agenda. So that's at the end of November, and you'll be getting an invite in the coming weeks. And I strongly invite you to attend that. You'll learn more about our latest 4.0 release, and you'll learn also about our future roadmap. So that's the end of my presentation. I think we've still got a few minutes now for some questions. I'll open up for questions if there are any.
Bryn, I see one here. Can we convert Perl shell programming to Genero? It's in the chat.
Let me try and find the chat. How do I get to the chat?
Should be in the lower right.
Do you want to enable for LaurentGalais to answer that question? I can't see the question. I'm
Sure.
sorry. Yeah.
Let me open that up again. Mine's lagging just a little bit. Sorry.
No problem.
Request was sent to you, Laurent, to open your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You would be able to run some Perl scripts from the 4GL and get some interaction to it. But I think if you were talking about, I don't think we're talking about any sort of UI here, right? But the direct interaction between the 4GL and the Perl script, you can run Perl scripts and get some. We have a feature called channels, and you can run scripts and you can get information from those scripts back. So yeah, that's the basic answer, and unless there might be some other criteria or some other information that you want to specify. Mike, can you unmute possibly Mike Folcher as well? Because I know he worked.
Hold on. Let me find him here.
Yeah, I know he worked on. He worked on some Perl programming in his previous Genero work, so maybe he might have some to add to this.
Mike, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah, so I think so if you have business logic that's in Perl scripts or shell scripts, so Genero has a like a built-in class called OS that allows you to do some operating system interaction. It also has a regular expression object kind of built into the application so that you can build regular expressions. So you can do a lot of the things that you're doing in right now in shell scripts or Perl scripts in the application logic itself. In fact, it kind of lends itself to doing that because then you can make it OS independent, right? Because you can say like there's an OS command or method that you can call that says get me the directory separator, get me the path separator, so you can get a forward slash or backslash or a colon or a semicolon based on the operating system. So you can start writing code that works across Windows as well as Unix, Linux. Obviously, there's some things like Laurent was saying. If you have user interface or you're accepting input, you're going to have to change those things. But you can read from a file, write to a file. You can read from a pipe. You can write to a pipe or standard output, standard error, things like that. So it can do a lot of the things that those scripting languages can do if you're looking to consolidate and put all of that kind of logic into Genero. Does that answer your question?
Looks like it might have, Mike.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, Bryn, thank you for putting on a nice presentation for us.
My pleasure. And please attend if you're interested in this subject. This is really just an introduction to the two other presentations of Laurent and Mike. So please attend those two presentations. Thank you very much, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.